OC. Viewer discretion is advised. Incoming transmission in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What is up, everybody? It is Courtney here from the Outcasted OC podcast gang, and welcome to the Monday Night Raw review. Now, I'm not going to waste any time. Let's just get straight into it, because this week's episode of Monday Night Raw was incredibly action-packed to the point where it flew by. 3 hours for me just absolutely flew by today. So we started off by seeing Jay, Kofi, Gunther, Ilya, and Drew McIntyre all arriving to the ring. Specifically these four, because Jay is going up against Ilya in the quarterfinals and Kofi Kingston is going up against Gunther for the King of the Ring tournament. Now they're in the quarterfinal stages on Monday Night Raw this week. Drew McIntyre arrived at the arena and he strutted his way out like an absolute girl boss to the ring, and he came out and he started cutting a promo, but before he had a chance to cut a promo, the crowd was obviously chanting for CM Punk. And Drew was like, CM Punk is not going to show unless you're Hartford, Connecticut, or Chicago, or Miami, or all these different places. He's not going to show for you. And he talks about CM Punk, and he talks about how CM Punk has deceived a lot of people within his time, and he's basically convinced the WWE universe for him to be trusted, but he keeps breaking the trust. And he's like, you guys are buying his crap, and if you like him, you are stupid. He calls Adam Pearce a stooge because he thinks that Adam Pearce is helping out CM Punk when actually it's causing more of an interference and more of an issue for Drew McIntyre. He mentions and references the whole point where it's like, well, I left and then Punk arrived, and then he talks about how I was in the arena and then obviously Punk was up in the ring box and all that stuff. So he's obviously very paranoid at this point. And he says that CM Punk is not going to be cleared for another 20 years, and then he goes on to start talking about Jey Uso, and he says that he'll deal with him later. But then he goes ahead and starts calling out Damian Priest and calls him a paper champion. Now, Senor Money in the Bank, Damian Priest, El Champion, he is not going to take it, and he comes out and he's like, Drew, you have some serious issues, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you say all of this to my face, because you like talking behind a screen, so you can say it to my face. Drew looks at Damian and says, you deserve everything that you have gotten. You have had an inspirational story getting to WWE and being a part of this industry, but you just don't deserve to be the champion. My neighbor is a well-deserving, he is an inspirational man, but he doesn't deserve to be World Heavyweight Champion. He said, it takes a man to make a title, and you are not making that title. He says, that title needs me. It needs me to make it. Damian's like, you are delusional. These are your failures. You chose this life, right? He talks about how, obviously, the moment when it came to WrestleMania, he should have just grabbed the title and his wife, and he should have just left, but he didn't. He let CM Punk get in his mind. He wanted to flaunt off this win to CM Punk, and ultimately it bit him in the ass. CM Punk beat the crap out of Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania, and it's funny because Damian Priest brings up all these different moments where Drew was like, why haven't you cashed in? Why haven't you cashed in? And Damian was like, I was going to cash in on Seth Rollins as you had suggested. And then there was a moment where you'd also said that maybe if you win the title and then I cash in on you. So I'm doing exactly what you've told me to do. Like, what is the point here? Is that you need to find a mirror, you need to look in it, and you need to blame that asshole. And he said, you've stopped me multiple times from cashing in, and obviously this was the point where you couldn't stop me because CM Punk was the one that got in the way. And he said, this is all on you. This is all your fault. And he's like, if you want a shot for my World Heavyweight Championship, that is totally fine, but you're going to eat every single one of these words when I beat you. And I was like, you tell him, King. You tell him who's boss. Because at the end of the day, Drew McIntyre is a paranoid psychopath, and he is going to be ultimately the bane of his own existence. He is going to be the one that completely ruins his own life within WWE. He's the one who is going to put himself down this path of destruction. It's already started, but he's going to do it. And so when he finally meets CM Punk in a ring, I feel like it's going to be one of the best feuds that we have seen, because a lot of the hype for this match, they haven't even touched. They both are medically unable to wrestle, so when that moment hits where they're going to be in the ring together, it's going to... I'm saving this for a video because I cannot wait for this moment. So because we've hit the quarterfinal stages of the King and Queen of the Ring tournament, we have multiple different recaps on stuff that's happened from the previous week's Monday Night Raw. So we got to see a recap from last week where we saw a few of the matches that took place and ultimately the people that have now progressed into the quarterfinals. And we also saw Damage Control antagonizing Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark backstage. Now, obviously, Zoe and Shayna were arriving and Damage Control started antagonizing Shayna. This is because the first match of the night that we go into is Io Sky versus Shayna Baszler Baszler. Now, Michael Cole does not fail to reference the history that these two have in Stardom together and the history that these two have in NXT, and I'm so grateful for this because I feel like for people that don't know that Io and Shayna have a rich history together, this is just like another match on Monday Night Raw. But for a lot of us people, and I was going to say girlies just then, but for a lot of us people who have obviously been watching wrestling for a very long time, we know the history between the two of them. So this just makes it all the more better. So Shayna ends up attacking Io before the match. So Io makes her way out to the ring and Shayna attacks her. Now this is revenge for what happened before the match even started when Zoe and Shayna arrived. Then Io hits a really nice basement dropkick on Shayna, but Shayna Baszler ends up taking control within the match and she ends up working on Io's arm. Io ends up striking Shayna and then Io ends up getting Shayna's legs stuck in the ring rope and then hits a really nice moonsault as well too. Then we hit the commercial break, but when we come back, Io is still targeting that knee of Shayna Baszler. There's a multiple different sequence finisher where it looks like Shayna's going for the Karafuda clutch and then we end up seeing Io going for the STF, so it's just a jostling of finishes and signatures at this point. And then we have over the moonsault from Io Sky to win this match. Now I am a little disappointed because I really did want Shayna Baszler to win, but and that's a big but here, I think this is going to be a really great way to get Io in that like title picture again. I'm really liking this. I'm grateful that they referenced the history, but I think I just have different picks of who I want to see in this tournament. So when they don't necessarily come true, it is a little bit upsetting for me. But it's okay because I don't do the booking. One thing that did happen straight afterwards is Jackie Redmond made her way into the ring and spoke with Io after the match. Io spoke Japanese, and then as she was leaving, she said that she is going to be the queen of the ring. And I don't doubt that. I definitely can see Io winning the tournament. I don't know how. I don't know who she's ultimately going to wrestle at the end, but I could definitely see it happening for sure. Cut backstage where we go to the Judgment Day clubhouse and everyone is in there and Damian's just returning from obviously cutting this promo with Drew and Carlito's just chilling with the rest of the Judgment Day and he's like, what is going on? Like, why are you still hanging around my boys? Like, what is up? Carlito's like, you really could use some extra muscle at the moment. And Damian says that he is not welcome. Then we see Gunther, he is backstage. And then we quickly see Chad Gable is angry at the Alpha Academy. What is new? Because Chad Gable is unhinged and he doesn't know how to keep any friends. He talks about how Maxine blew her opportunity with the Queen of the Ring tournament. So for those of you who do not know, it was actually meant to be Zelina Vega versus Shayna Baszler at the live event for the spot in the Queen of the Ring tournament. But unfortunately with Zelina's injury, Maxine Dupree took the place of Zelina Vega. Shayna Baszler made very light work of Maxine Dupree and obviously has now gone forward in the tournament. So Chad Gable's visibly peeved that obviously Maxine is not going any further in this tournament. And he says that he needs the serious Otis tonight because Otis is going to be going up against Sammy and he says Tozawa is going to be going up against Bronson, so I need my team to be serious. And then Ivy comes in and starts to try and talk to Maxine after the boys have left and she's like, I really shouldn't be talking to you, like Coach Gable's not super thrilled. He comes back in and he starts going off on Ivy and he's like, why are you hanging out with Taylor Not So Swift? So that's basically a reference to Maxine. Ivy looked a little bit upset and I'm not gonna lie, I don't like Chad Gable right now. And that's the whole point, is you don't want to, you're supposed to not like him. And obviously he's doing his job right if he's getting that kind of emotion out of me, but I'm just like, Chad, like, stop screwing over your friends. Like, they will be there for you when you need them, and if you are gonna screw them over and you eventually win the Intercontinental Championship, you ain't gonna have anybody. Following this awkward interaction with the Alpha Academy, we got to see how Gunther and Kofi Kingston both got to this point in the quarterfinals, and then Kathy ends up catching up with the New Day backstage ahead of this match with Gunther, and she's asking, like, how do you feel, Kofi, going into this? Kofi says he's going to get his payback on Gunther, and in the ring there is absolutely no room for fear, failure, and self-doubt. Xavier's like, look, at the end of the day, I really want to be a part of this tournament, and I want to be defending my King of the Ring status, but unfortunately I cannot. It's a huge honor to do this, and I'm really hoping that Kofi does really well in this match. Adam Pearce, The Miz, and Truth have this like moment backstage where Adam Pearce and Truth are talking, and then Miz comes in and he's like, why are you trying to like set something up for our tag titles? It's just basically this whole like lack of communication between Truth and Miz. But we end up seeing Kiana James for the first time since her coming up from NXT, and she talks to Adam and she's talking about how, you know, she's really looking forward to working under the tutelage of Adam Pearce and is talking about how she's going to prove that she is that 1%. Obviously, she's playing into her gimmick, and I really enjoyed seeing her. I just cannot wait to see what they do with her and her character when it comes to moving forward within the women's division. This moment really choked me up, I'm not going to lie to you. So Samantha Irvin is standing in the middle of the ring, and I had no form of idea that this was going to happen. I didn't even have this on my bingo card because I never thought that this moment could happen. She introduces Lillian Garcia out to the ring to help with the announcements for this match. And when I tell you, I feel myself welling up. I felt myself welling up. This just felt like my childhood right in front of me. It was just so good. And it was great that she was the one that got to introduce Kofi Kingston into this match. So Lillian Garcia introduced Kofi, and then obviously Samantha Irvin introduced Gunther out, and now this is a quarterfinal match for the King of the Ring tournament. This was a really good match. I did find that it felt like it went on a little bit long, but Kofi and Gunther both have really good in-ring chemistry that it kind of makes up for the time that it took. So Kofi's on the upper hand on Gunther at the beginning of this match. He tries to chop him down. He goes for him at the beginning before the match even has a chance to start. Kofi's working the right leg and knee of Gunther, but then Gunther ends up finding a way to take control within the match, and he absolutely mutilates Kofi on the announce table. He throws him down on it. We hit the commercial break, but once we come back, Gunther is still in control of this match. He hits a really nice backbreaker, and then we see an awesome drop kick coming in from Gunther. Gunther ends up finishing this match up with a powerbomb and a Boston Crab combo to come away with the win and to further progress himself within the tournament. I think this is the right decision. Ultimately, I actually think Gunther is one of my front runners for this tournament. I definitely think you want to keep his elite status within the men's division up, considering how long he'd been the Intercontinental Champion for, and obviously just trying to keep him moving towards a World Heavyweight Champion opportunity at some point in time. I'm excited for Gunther. I think he's well deserving of this. He is an absolute powerhouse in the ring. You cannot fault the guy. He is incredible in every way, shape, and form. We had a video recap reminder of Liv Morgan confronting Becky Lynch last week, and obviously what happened with Damage Control and how Lyra came out and assisted Becky Lynch. Jackie's catching up with Lyra backstage before her match, which is happening later on in the evening, and she's like, hey, how do you feel after your first week of Monday Night Raw? And Lyra's like, it's the perfect way to kickstart my way off to the top, and she talks about how she will support Becky Lynch anytime. The Irish have to stick together. Then Becky comes in, and obviously Jackie's like, Becky's amazing, and they start talking about this match because Lyra's going up against Zoe Stark in the Queen of the Ring tournament, and Lyra starts to elaborate. She says, look, I haven't actually had the chance to wrestle, and then she gets rudely interrupted by Liv Morgan. Liv Morgan comes in and was basically just welcome, you're really going to enjoy being here on Monday Night Raw. But then she goes ahead and turns it onto herself, and she's like, can I ask you a question? Has Becky Lynch always been a bitch? And Lyra's like, why don't you just ask her for yourself? And Becky Lynch is standing right behind Liv Morgan, and this was so funny. Becky hits her and then says, I'm not the one who's scared of a face-to-face bitch, and she walks off, and I'm like, oh, ugh. That's my queen. You freaking tell her. I was like, oh man, I cannot wait. But obviously, knowing wrestling, something has to happen later on in the evening because of this interaction. It's a very interesting moment that happened after this. Kofi Kingston is limping away. He's obviously backstage after his match against Gunther. Karrion Kross is waiting for him. And he's waiting for him, and he says, hey, it was a really tough loss that you just suffered, but it's more time to turn things around. And then Karrion kind of walks away, and then Xavier comes in with the ice for Kofi, and he's like, what did he want? And he's like, I don't know. It's a bit weird. Head back to the ring where we have the match between Bronson Reed and Akira Tozawa with Chad Gable accompanying Akira. Now, this was a very short match. This was trying to show Akira being serious, but unfortunately he did not succeed in this. So his quickness was on display in the match, but then we end up seeing Bronson get the upper hand. He hits a really nice Death Valley driver and a tsunami to come away with the win. Fortunately, Akira did not get the win within this match, and this has obviously annoyed Master Gable even more, which, to be honest, I feel like this is just a natural point of being for him now. Ludwig Kaiser and Gunther are walking backstage, and they catch up with Kathy Kelly, and I'm not going to lie to you, Gunther kind of just walked off and let Ludwig do a little bit of the talking, which was a really great thing, because this has not only shown that Ludwig is up at that level. He's shown how great of a talker he is. He is talking up Gunther as his side boy. He's like, this is my man, this is my boy, he's the longest reigning intercontinental champion of all time, he's going to be the king of the ring, blah blah blah. He starts talking about Sheamus, but then he goes back to Gunther and he's like, Gunther does not have anything to prove around here to anybody. Obviously listing all of his accomplishments, he doesn't need to prove himself to anybody. And Ludwig has gone ahead and said that he will put Sheamus out of his misery. You know, he talks about how Sheamus has had this fantastic career, but he's no match for Gunther. He's never going to beat Gunther. So I think we're going to get a match between Ludwig and Sheamus. And to be honest, I ain't mad at it. Jackie Redmond is catching up with Adam Pearce backstage as there is a huge announcement for the men's tag team division. There is going to be a fatal four-way match that is taking place tonight on Monday Night Raw. And Jackie made the mistake of asking Adam Pearce why, Bron Breakker's not a part of the King of the Ring tournament. Adam Pearce was basically like, look, I just feel like because he's moved from SmackDown, he doesn't know what Raw's got in store. I feel like it's just basically him being thrown in the deep end. And Bron comes in and he's like, it's not me being thrown in the deep end with them, it's them being thrown in the deep end with me, and I'm going to absolutely attack and just have my opponents drown. And he said it's basically a shame that I should have been in the tournament. And I'm not going to lie to you, Bron Breakker really should have been in the tournament. I don't know why he wasn't, I don't know why they're saving him, but it should have been Bron in the tournament. I'm sorry. We got to see a video recap of Zoe versus Ivy from last week, as well as Dakota versus Lyra. Now, this was obviously a part of the Queen of the Ring tournament and how we got to see specific contenders move forward. Go to the match between Lyra Valkyria and Zoe Stark. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, they worked really well together for the first time ever wrestling. Lyra's hitting some really nice deep arm drags onto Zoe. Zoe hits a really nice clothesline onto Lyra Valkyria. Then we hit the commercial break, but when we come back, Zoe hit a really nice missile drop kick. We end up seeing an Irish kick coming in from Lyra and a tornado DDT as well as a crossbody. She's got the momentum, she's got the movements going in the match. She hits a really nice spinning heel kick onto Lyra. The finishing sequence was actually really cool. It was a Z360 coming in from Zoe, which we ended up seeing Lyra end up reversing this into the Nightwing to secure the win. Keep in mind how I said this tournament might bring out the worst in me, because I was a little bit bummed that Zoe is not going to be progressing. I understand why, I completely get it, but I really like Zoe Stark, and I'm getting a little bit frustrated with getting the feeling like she's being pushed and then she's not. And I'm like, okay, I understand that there are other people that you want to push right now, but please give Zoe and Shayna a chance just with something, please. It's all I'm asking for. I just need the closure. Specifically with Shayna Baszler, I just need her to win a women's championship on the main roster, an individual championship. Please, I'm begging you. We see Lyra get into the ring with Jackie Redmond, and Jackie's like, how do you feel after your win? How do you feel about going up against Io Sky? Because that's who's in the semifinals. And she's basically she says something in Gaelic, which is in Irish language, and then she's like, I'm going straight to the top, which that's kind of cool. To see the video recaps of Finn versus Jay from last week and Ricochet versus Elia as well. Jay cuts a promo backstage talking about how Drew McIntyre isn't cut out for this, and that Finn Balor got the yeet down last week, and he starts talking about how he's going to beat down on Ilya Dragunov later on in the evening. We head back to the ring where Sami Zayn is going up against Otis. Now, this was a very short-lived match as well too. Chad Gable did accompany our Otis out to the ring. Otis is overpowering Sami, but then Otis is really unsure of what he's trying to do. Obviously, he's trying to do the worm, he's trying to have some fun, but Chad Gable's screaming at him please don't do this, but what do you know, he ends up doing it anyway. Then we end up seeing Otis try to go up to the top ropes to hit a splash on Sami. He ends up avoiding it, he hits the Helluva kick and secures the win. There's a moment where Chad gets into the ring and he ends up shoving Otis, and then we end up seeing Sami hit a really nice stunner suplex onto Chad Gable, and then there's a moment where Otis ends up leaving and Chad slaps Otis and is like, this is all your fault. I don't like seeing my boys fight. Please stop. Otis, justice for Otis. Otis ain't done nothing wrong. Otis is just trying to have a good time, ripping off his shirt, doing the worm. I can't even do that because it's not PG. And Otis can do it, and he's not allowed to because Master Gable said he was. Otis, you're fine on your own, please. Just leave Mr. Gable behind. You take Kira, you take Maxine, and you guys just find some happiness. Actually, a really cool moment backstage where the Creed brothers and Ivy Nile were talking with Braun Strowman, and Braun Strowman was like, you guys have got such a bright future, like look at Ivy, she's like got some real huge guns, you know. He's hyping them up, which I really love. And then JD McDonough comes in and he interrupts Braun, and Braun's like, what do you want? And he's like, I'm a part of the Judgment Day, we run Monday Night Raw, blah, blah, blah. And he warns Braun, and he's like, okay. And then Braun turns around and he goes, oh, I just got warned by the Judgment Day. It's so funny because of the size difference between JD McDonough and Braun Strowman. It was quite funny. I love me some Braun Strowman. I just love the vibes that he's bringing back on the main roster. He's, just such a great guy. Triple H is just giving me match after match after match tonight, and I am totally here for it. So we got to see Dakota Kai take on Becky Lynch. Now, Dakota Kai did come out with Io Sky and Kairi Sane to the ring. Becky Lynch is ragdolling Dakota, and we see a really nice baseball slide. Then Dakota ends up taking control as Damage Control ends up distracting Becky Lynch. We hit the commercial break, and when we come back, Dakota is still on the attack. Then we see a really nice leg drop coming in from Becky Lynch, followed up by a superplex. Becky hits the disarmer when we end up seeing Io and Kairi come in and they start attacking Becky Lynch, so the match ends in a DQ. Lyra comes to the aid of Becky Lynch, and then we end up seeing Liv Morgan sending Becky Lynch into the ring post. See how I said earlier that interaction that they had backstage will play a part in something that happens later on? This was it. Am I upset about it? No, not really. Was it necessary? I mean, I don't book creative, so I don't know. Becky Redmond is catching up with Ilya Dragunov before his match against Jey Uso, and she's asking about the King of the Ring tournament. And Ilya says that he is here to make an impact, and he wants to become the Tsar of the Ring, and he wants to beat Gunther. When? Oh, I screamed. We got the stare down, finally, on the main roster between Gunther and Ilya. It was phenomenal. I can't tell you how much my heart was doing jumping jacks. It quite literally was flipping on itself because I've wanted this for a long time and we finally got it. But I feel like because now we finally got it, we're not going to get it for a very long time. Because Triple H does this thing where he plants the seeds and he forgets to go and water the tree, and then he remembers about it 3 months later and he's like, oh yeah, I need to go water that tree. And then that's when we finally get it. So park that idea of Ilya and Gunther in your head for now, because we ain't getting it anytime soon. I'm telling you that. And it's... Don't tease me with a good time, Triple H, if you ain't gonna give it to me right now. I'm sorry, but I'm waiting a long time. I've been waiting so long for this moment, but it's okay. Another moment that I have been waiting for a long time is me Irish boys, Finn and JD, to finally team up. So we got the Judgment Day, which was Finn and JD taking on New Catch Republic, taking on AOP, taking on the Creeds in a fatal four-way match for the #1 contender spot for Miz and Truth's titles. Now, this match was absolute chaos. I honestly... You just have to watch it, because New Catch were in control, and then the Creeds end up double teaming. AOP ends up cleaning house. AOP ends up sending JD McDonough flying, which was quite funny. Julius comes in and he overpowers not only the Judgment Day, but he also takes on AOP as well too. Finn Balor comes in, hits a really nice sling blade, and we see New Catch both hitting moonsaults outside of the ring. Tyler Bate comes in, he picks up Akam and just spins him around, which was quite cool. And because Carlito is trying to prove himself to the Judgment Day, he comes in and interferes within the match, and then Finn ends up hitting the coup de grace to come away with the win. So the Irish boys won. I'm so stoked. I'm like, yes, because can we actually just have those two as a tag team on the main roster, please? I don't think it's much to ask for. I know I've asked for a lot this week, but Triple H, I really don't think that's too hard to ask for. So I'll flick you a text later on tonight, and I'll just make sure that you've got that down. And if you need me to explain it to you again, I will happily tell you. Ilya is preparing for his match backstage, and he ends up running into Ricochet. Ricochet is like, look, I've come here to show you some respect. Next time we do go down in the ring, it is going to be different, but go and get that crown. Then we cross back to the Judgment Day clubhouse, where everyone is super hyped after what had happened. Damian is like, look, it's kind of cool what you did, Carlito, but I feel like you've got your own business to take care of, but if you're going to be a part of ours, don't let us down. We go to the main event, which is main event Jey Uso taking on Ilya Dragunov for a spot in the semi-finals for the King of the Ring tournament. Now, this was a really great match. I really enjoyed it. I feel like the mix of Ilya and Jay's wrestling styles maybe kind of clashed a few times just because Ilya's a lot more hard hitting, whereas Jay Uso's a little bit more of the theatrics towards the match. But Ilya was in control at the beginning, and then we end up seeing Jay dropping Ilya, and there's a really nice suicide dive come in from Jay Uso. Ilya goes for the H-bomb. He's like on the barricade, and he just tries to hit the H-bomb onto Jay Uso on the table, which obviously does not work. Jay ends up escaping, and he ends up running around the ring and ends up spearing Ilya over the table. We go to a commercial break, but when we come back, Ilya and Jay are exchanging blows. We see Jay hit a really nice step up enziguri, and then Ilya ends up suplexing Jay Uso twice. Ilya goes for the H-bomb, gets a 2 count. We end up seeing the spear and splash combo by Jay for him to secure the win. I am a little bit upset that Ilya is not progressing in the tournament, but I understand that they will save Ilya and Gunther for another time. But I was just like, really? But that's just myself being upset at something. I'm sure Jay Uso is going to do a great job when it comes to going up against Gunther next week. But I just, in my mind, I think I had already prepared myself for Ilya winning this match, but that's okay. I'm a wrestling fan. I just have to learn to be patient about these things. Good things come to those that wait. Sadly, this brings us to the end of the Monday Night Raw review for this week. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you go ahead and show us that you did by liking the video. Go ahead and comment something that you enjoyed about Monday Night Raw. Go ahead and comment who you think is going to win King and Queen of the Ring, because I'd love to look back at those comments after the actual tournament has finished to kind of see how many of those predictions were right. That would be quite cool. While you're there, make sure you go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Turn on the bell icon so you do not miss any of our videos, any of our reviews or our podcasts. It'll send you a notification when they are there so you don't miss anything. While you're there, also go ahead and check out the description. You can find all of the links for Outcasted on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, as well as where you can find all of us individual members on other social medias so you can keep up to date with what we're doing when we are not posting on here. You've got your regularly scheduled NXT review coming in this week, as well as a podcast and the SmackDown review coming in later on in the week. But I'm going to leave you guys alone now because I've been talking for quite some time. I need to save myself for the podcast because I'm very excited because I'm on it this week. I'm very excited to be a part of it. So I will see you guys on the pod. Bye, guys.